discussing among ourselves if this could really be a complete language. It turned out to, in fact, be a complete language, and during the course of my other work, I collected as many vocabulary words as I could, as well as communicating with a colleague who's a linguist in St. Petersburg, Russia, and also with our colleague Conrad Tucksher at St. John's University. And they're looking at these lists that I collected, and I'm hoping that as one of the historians of the group, it will lead us to some information about where the Baga really came from, maybe before they got to Futujalan, or help us to learn if they really were in Futujalan or in that region, as they say what they were in their oral histories. Since I don't have time to present any of that material, I did prepare a short handout in case anybody's interested in that kind of material. Amanda Maples has copies, and if there are any questions on that, maybe we can get to them during the question and answer period. Meanwhile, I was, as Fred having brought me onto the team as a specialist in oral tradition, actually, some oral history, but oral tradition beyond living memory, going as far back as we have any oral narrative to consult. I normally work among the Maninka and Bamana people of the Mande cultures of Mali and Guinea and neighboring areas. And I was used to working with centuries-old epic traditions, where I've, over the decades, recorded long oral narratives, extensive oral discourse, and been greatly involved in the translating and interpreting of various grains of allegedly historical information that might be gleaned from them. So how do I do my job in a culture that doesn't really have those kinds of epic narratives? I also, in addition to oral tradition, am very much involved with traditional religion, and so I've fallen back on my interest and study of traditional religion in addition to the oral traditions, and found myself collecting oral histories, that is, things people remembered in living memories, things they heard from their grandparents and so forth. And on my photography, and for today I've tried to, in figuring out what to do about Dumba in my role, I've also been involved with other female sculpture. The wealth of sculpture as revealed in Fred's amazing book, Art of the Baga, which I reviewed for African Arts when it first came out. It's a culture that's just amazingly rich in all levels of art, though not the kind of oral tradition that I'm used to working with. So what I've done is try to, for this particular presentation, I've tried to, through my perspectives, I'm attempting to reveal something about the spirit of womanhood, and Miriam has provided me with a perfect segue with those last photos of the infants at the breast for what I'm trying to accomplish here today. Just a few things to keep in mind. I'm going to basically let the photographs do my talking for me, but just a couple of things that I hope you'll keep in mind as I go along. My approach is woman as source. In the Mande language, it's Sabu. She's the source of virtually all important things, including, of course, the perpetuation of the people. The Baga women are constantly associated with water, both through the domestic needs and needs of the village, and through, of course, the obvious symbolism involving childbirth and the environment of the child before being born. The reverence for womanhood, as we've seen already with the Dumba sculptures. The images that we've already seen are traditionally expressed in other sculpted images as well. Spirits revealed in religious ritual, dance, and music that the team has been studying. And I'm going to be looking at her, in addition to her association with water, as a gateway or conduit to the spirit world, keeping in mind that in the spirit world of these people, it's a non-temporal place. There is no lineal time involved. It's a world where all the ancestors are together, regardless of how long ago they lived. And it's a place where the unborn are waiting to come into this world, and when the woman is in her birthing process, she's a conduit, she's a connecting force between the spirit world and the material world that the baby's born into. I'm thinking of her as a gateway from the spirit world to this world. I wouldn't have even been already going to see so much of her, but here we have the breast being slapped, the famous gesture of reverence to Dumba, acknowledging her importance as a symbol of womanhood. And this is one of the most familiar sights in any West African village, and we certainly saw it every day in the Baga villages. Woman as provider of food, here she's sorting the palm nuts. Woman as provider of furnishings for the house, wearing out her hands and her feet in the process of her daily chores. These are who carry loads of rocks on their heads to repair roads and build roads. They work in the soil, not just to farm and grow rice and other crops, but in this kind of soil that they carry in these heavy head pans to produce salt. This is a quotation from our team leader and conceiver of this project. The ideal of femininity is expressed in her unquestionable comportment, her vigorous yet elegant movement, her adornment and dress, and the evidence in her breast of her selfless devotion to the nurturing of children. Celebrating marriage. Miriam mentioned the throwing of rice, or Rebecca. The Pano dance. The bride celebrating, reminding us of the importance of the marriage ritual that comes in her life. Dumba being the central sculpted female spirit, but everywhere we turn there are others. This is Sorsorne. This is one that we're not even sure our colleague Marie Von Curtis told us yesterday when I was discussing this with Fred that she thinks this was influenced by Christianity. This figure normally has wings. The one in Fred's book labeled Chiambo has wings that are missing from this particular sculpture. This is Chiambo. And on to the images of Baga womanhood and water, the ancient sacred well of Kafen, treated like a shrine. You have to take your shoes off before you enter the area. It's a sort of navel of the universe as far as these people are concerned. The daily ritual of girls and women carrying the water for the family compound, and everywhere we look are the old pots. that they used to use, reminding us of days gone by when life was even harder than it is now. Even on construction projects with the baby on the back, repairing a house that fell down that was still up, being held up by buttresses the last time we were at the Fen together. When I went back, they were starting to rebuild it, and the women were carrying water for the mud bricks. The women carry the water for the distillation of the salt that you saw the other woman carrying soil for. And this is the kind of production the women produce in this very powerful, tough way. Now, this is not Baga. I kept asking, do you have Mami Wada? Oh, we've heard of Mami Wada, but we don't have her. In northern Guinea, we have Mami Wada in Conakry, we have Mami Wada all along the Atlantic coast of West Africa, all the way down to Central Africa. No Mami Wada that I could find in the Baga villages. They have their own version. They have Yombo Fisa. Note that she's not part fish, she's kneeling on a fish. Here's Fred's description. Tempting female spirit from the sea who dispense riches and welfare to those who placate her. That's the exact same description that I get over and over again for Mami Wada, mother of water. Mami Wada always has a snake around her neck. Here we have it on Yombo Fisa's head as she kneels on the fish. Now, Faro Den Muso is not Baga. She's Mande. Here she is, buxom, bare-breasted and benippled in Bamako, that racy capital city of Mali. Here she is, much more modest, in heavily Muslim Timbuktu, much less busty and wearing a bra. But here she is in the Baga village in the manifestation of the Signal, very much a reminder of Mami Wada, only with the snake on her head instead of around her neck. All symbols of the female spirit. So, part of Fred's title for this project has this word desire in it, and I've kidded him about it, and I've joked about it a little bit. I asked him, and I still was never quite sure, and while I was preparing this project and really going through my material and trying to figure out how to expose the spirit of Baga womanhood as expressed in the great Dumba performances and the other sculpted female spirits. Female spirits is spirits that are ubiquitous throughout West Africa from the Sahel to the Atlantic coast in various forms, but which are just pervasive in Baga's culture in great number, as we see. And I at least figured out what I think, where I think the desire comes in. And I think it's here. Entire orientation and the spirit of womanhood is toward producing this kind of treasure. But there's a great paradox here, because in order to move on in the value system and from the perspective of the local people, especially the women who are determined to continue this tradition, these beautiful little rays of light have to be prepared for their own role. This isn't where the excision takes place. It takes place in the forest, and then the girls move into the initiation hut in the village of Mbotani, or Mbern, as it's known, in one of the remoter villages that we visited. There are 4 clans, and each clan has its initiation hut for its girls, and they were all in a span of 2 weeks. One week it was on these little girls' faces. They went through the ordeal a mere few hours before. This is in the afternoon of the morning that they went through it. Here we have them virtually lost in the crowd, women. They're celebrating in a way, but it's a very quiet sort of celebration compared to the ones we heard with the Dumba and with all of the other dance and musical productions that we witnessed. It was sort of a strange thing to witness. It was an entirely different atmosphere. They're clapping and they're singing and there's drumming going on, but there's tension and there's quite sober expressions on their faces. Girls like this with the woven necklaces were from the week before, from the earlier excision group. And they're not the kind of faces we're used to seeing in these dance performances. This woman is dancing, but she doesn't have that look of exuberance and joy that we're used to seeing in the dances of Dumba and the other ones that we got used to seeing. We have there's an undertone of seriousness here, especially with the woman who performed the operation bringing out the knife wrapped in red cloth that we used in the girls' ritual ordeal. Of initiation following the operation, the girls are constantly reminded that they have just passed from one form of existence to another, that they're being prepared to continue the tradition of these kinds of ordeals, and that there are living spirits that are observing them at all times. This is the most prominent mask that was being used during this period. Day and night. The red mask accompanied by other masks. In the dark, this man's got lights all over. You can't see him, you can only see the lights.